Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 63, Soul Communion. Yao Jiaping hadn't been skinned yet. Yin Hanjiang had asked for an intact skin, but Yao Jiaping's throat had been pierced by him. In order to accomplish the task that the new sect leader had assigned him, Shi Kengzin first carefully treated Yao Jiaping's injury with elixirs, then soaked him in medicinal water. Only after he soaked for 48 hours could the procedure to take his skin could be started, otherwise the skin might tear. Shi Kengzin had always been a someone subordinate in Xianyuan sect and had never been entrusted with something this important. Today, Left Protector Shu and Hall Master Zhongli had been reprimanded by sect leader Yin while he had been given a task, so he actually felt rather cheerful. Ever since he succeeded Qiu Kongxiu and took over the Hellfire Pavilion, Shi Kengzin had been panicking. Hall Master Yuan, who had recommended him, had been killed by sect leader Yin for colluding with the righteous sects, and Right Protector Qiu had brought back a ghost cultivator with a flesh body named Suhui, saying that when Suhui's cultivation improved, she would help him remove Shi Kengzin and take over the Hellfire Pavilion. Moreover, the new Hall Master Zhongli Qian that sect leader Yin had appointed treated Suhui as his student. Shi Kengzin had been shedding tears in his heart, afraid that he'd be replaced at any time. There was nothing good about being in a high position. The tables seemed to be turning, though. Sect leader Yin was starting to value him after taking over the sect. He was determined to impress sect leader Yin with his capabilities, cough cough. Yet it hadn't been 6 hours and he had just gotten Yao Jiaping soaked properly, when he received a message from sect master Wen. The sect master was back. Then who was he supposed to listen to now? Shi Kengzin was too scared to offend either of them. He had no choice but to pick up the half-dead Yao Jiaping and bring him to Wenren. For some reason immediately after his return, Wenren was already in Hall Master Zhongli's room. Were the two plotting together in order to take back control of the sect from sect leader Yin? It was time for him to make his stand, Shi Kengzin decided. He had to convey this information to sect leader Yin, so he would be prepared. Then, when the time came, Qiu Kongxiu, Shu Yanyan, Zhongli Qian and Suhui would all, cough, cough. While fantasizing, Shi Kengzin walked into the room and saw sect leader Yin was heavily injured, lying in Wenren's lap. He started coughing harder. Shut up. The devil Venerable wore a blue robe, his imposing presence stronger than ever. He didn't even glance at Shi Kengzin as his eyes were locked on Yin Hanjiang's face, brushing his fingertips over the corner of Yin Hanjiang's mouth. The ever-vigilant Zhongli Qian pulled Shi Kengzin aside and transmitted to him, "Don't disturb the sect master right now. Yao Jiaping is still alive, right? He doesn't want me to receive favor from the Lord." Shi Kengzin thought. But he still acted fearful as he transmitted back, "Thank you for your advice. He hasn't died yet, cough cough." Zhongli Qian turned toward Shi Kengzin. His eyes were blindfolded, yet Shi Kengzin had a feeling like all his thoughts were exposed in front of him. It must be his imagination, it was just the moonlight shining through a window and illuminating Zhongli Qian's face, that was giving him such a strange feeling. Shi Kengzin transmitted, "Why is Hall Master Zhongli looking at me like that? Is something wrong?" Cough cough. "Nothing, I just didn't expect your mental transmissions would also have coughing," Zhongli Qian said. Shi Kengzin. It was just a habit. Since he cultivated the 7 human sufferings, he naturally had to experience suffering at every moment. Even if his sickness qi had been sucked away by Bailey Qingmiao, he at least had to act sick. Cough cough cough. Shi Kengzin avoided looking at Zhongli Qian, scared that his intentions would be seen through. Staring at the sect master, he saw Wenren dip his head, drawing closer and closer to Yin Hanjiang's face, until Shi Kengzin's face and ears flushed red. He stared unblinking, trying to figure out what the sect master was actually doing, but Wenren's long hair slid down and blocked the two's faces from view. It took a while for Wenren to raise his head again. Then he spoke in a deeply pained voice, This venerable one was too hasty. Qing was backed up into a corner. Terrified, he bit down on his fingers to stop himself from making any noise. He had glimpsed a little through the gaps in the venerable one's hair. What was the venerable one doing? Sucking away Yin Hanjiang's power? Hall Master Zhongli stood at one side and acted like he was blind. Well, he was blindfolded. Wenren he didn't give Qing a glance. He extended a hand at Yao Jieping, who flew across the room towards him. He planted his hand on Yao Jieping's skull and with a casual yank, he removed the man's soul from his body. This is, Zhongli Qian couldn't hold back his doubts. This venerable one learned this technique in the Sea of Blood, Wenren he said distractedly. It can extract all of a person's memories and abilities, and make them one's own. It's just an unorthodox technique, not worth mentioning. There were 180,000 demonic gods sealed in the Sea of Blood, so Wenren he hadn't had an easy time of it for the past year and a half. The blood demon had destroyed the marks on his soul, which was equivalent to destroying a blood cultivator's foundation, and he had also been impaled by the weapons of 9 experts before falling into the Sea of Blood. He had lost a lot of strength. He had been betting on that stone that had protected Bailey Qingmiao in the book and helped her awaken her divine nature. As long as he obtained the divine bloodstone, Wenren he could cultivate within the Sea of Blood and absorb the chaos energy. Indeed, after he obtained the divine bloodstone, it shielded his soul, but simultaneously, the divine nature hidden at the bottom of the Sea of Blood called to it, constantly dragging Wenren he towards the depths of the sea. In that year and a half, Wenren he awakened to a path of divinity from the divine blood, absorbing chaos energy while resisting the divine nature. Thousands of demonic gods drifted at the bottom of the Sea of Blood, all desiring to kill Wenren he and return to the cultivation world in his place. Wenren he continued to advance in his cultivation as he killed many demonic gods and obtained their techniques. He had wanted to return way earlier, but the divine nature tugged at the divine bloodstone, preventing him from escaping. It was only a few days ago that the power of the divine nature had suddenly weakened, that Wenren he had found his chance. Gathering all his power, he broke out of the Sea of Blood. Later, he learned from the book how Bailey Qingmiao's heart had been crushed at the Sea of Blood. Having come into proximity of the divine nature, she fell under its control, becoming obsessed with ending her life. It was only when Yin Hanjiang's killing intent woke Bailey Qingmiao that her will was strengthened, which then weakened the power of the divine nature. Yin Hanjiang truly had done well. He didn't turn Bailey Qingmiao into an everlasting lamp because of his resentment, and had even inadvertently awakened her will, which had given Wenren he the chance to escape the Sea of Blood. Yao Jieping thought of himself too highly, believing that his medical skills were without competition. He never could have imagined that Wenren he would pay no mind to whether or not he was willing to treat Yin Hanjiang, as he only required his capability to do so. It was also because Wenren he knew there was a cure for Yin Hanjiang's heart demons that he suggested he could receive treatment first, then steal Yao Jieping's skin. But when he heard Yin Hanjiang's reason, he hadn't been able to control himself. He had been too self-centered. Wenren he calmly took in Yao Jieping's memories, skipping over his time with his lover and how every time he saw a woman who resembled his lover, he would feel unbearable pain and would only feel relief upon using that woman's body. If you asked Wenren he, this was nothing but a defilement of that love. No one could replace Yin Hanjiang. The very idea was an insult to him. Soon enough, he found a method to heal Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang's problem wasn't with his body but his heart. There was nothing wrong with his cultivation, his mental state was just preventing him from controlling his level of power. Immense power required immense mental fortitude. Once one's mental control couldn't keep up with their cultivation stage, they would suffer chi deviation. It usually came in two forms: going berserk by indiscriminately attacking anyone around them in order to relieve their rampaging spiritual essence, or suppressing their spiritual essence inside their bodies, so that it didn't harm anyone else even as they suffered. Yin Hanjiang was obviously the latter. Repression had just become a habit for him. Such an injury needed to be attacked from two sides. He needed to sort out his spiritual qi, while at the same time use a soul communion technique to seek out the source of his suffering, and resolve his heart demons. Fixing his spiritual qi would be easy. Wenrenhe's chaos energy could transform into all other forms of energy, it being their primordial form. However chaotic Yin Hanjiang's spiritual qi was, Wenrenhe's power would be able to subdue it. Wenrenhe stuffed Yao Jiaping's soul back into his body and tossed him to Shikeng's Inn again, so he could hurry up and use the skin-stealing technique while the man was still breathing. He gave Zhongli Qian a look, and Zhongli Qian quickly left the room, putting up an array behind him and leaving the space to the two of them. Wenrenhe carefully laid Yin Hanjiang on the bed and bent over him, until his forehead was pressed against Yin Hanjiang's. As he had no physical body right now, his body and soul were one and the same. In a flash of light, Wenrenhe vanished, leaving only his blue robe draped over Yin Hanjiang. Yao Jiaping's experience told Wenrenhe that he couldn't heal Yin Hanjiang's heart on his first try. He would have to use the soul communion technique multiple times. So this time, what he had to do was to find what was making Yin Hanjiang lose control within his mind and help him return to normal for now. Afterwards, he could proceed on filling Yin Hanjiang's mind with the thoughts of Wenrenhe is not dead and Wenrenhe loves you. Until Yin Hanjiang finally able to accept it, Wenrenhe could then appear before him and say those words in person. He followed Yin Hanjiang's thoughts to a few hours earlier, seeing his confrontation with himself. Through Yin Hanjiang's memory, Wenrenhe finally saw this time how many illusions were plaguing Yin Hanjiang at that time. They each had different expressions, some loving, some cold, some calm, some overbearing. They all resembled the real person but were all missing something. Seeing such a scene, Wenrenhe couldn't help but laugh, at Yin Hanjiang's foolishness and at his own arrogance. Yin Hanjiang was seeing at least a dozen of him. In such a condition, how was he meant to distinguish which one was real and which were fake? It was too difficult. He saw how after the him in the memory confessed to Yin Hanjiang broke down. He could easily change the words he had said, but he didn't. He didn't want to casually change Yin Hanjiang's memories, and didn't want to wipe away his own words. He wouldn't touch anything that had already happened. In the memory, Yin Hanjiang flipped through abusive love affair, his mouth filling with blood, unable to see or hear anything else. Only now that he was inside Yin Hanjiang's soul, did Wenrenhe understand just how much agony he had been in at that point. It was not that he didn't wanted to believe it, but that it was impossible for him to do so. When he couldn't trust his own sight, hearing, and touch, how could he believe anything that happened to him? Watching as he kneeled on the ground and reading, Wenrenhe walked up and put his arms around this Yin Hanjiang who finally neglected to hide his own weakness in front of him. He said quietly, "You can take me as a heart demon. I won't force you to believe anymore. Right now, just allow me to say a few words and just listen to me for a bit. Don't push me away." The soul communion only affected the soul's memories. Since everything had already happened, Yin Hanjiang wouldn't fall apart further because of it. Yin Hanjiang paused, feeling the warmth of the person behind him. Without anyone pushing him to believe anything, Yin Hanjiang leaned back against him and closed his eyes. Wenrenhe tenderly kissed Yin Hanjiang's forehead, holding his ice-cold fingers. "You don't need to believe but at least have some hope. Hope that I'm still alive, all right? Think about it, almost nothing in the world can harm this Venerable One." Even just hearing the words "this Venerable One was alive," brought Yin Hanjiang unparalleled joy. With his eyes closed, he nodded obediently, "Mm." Seeing he was willing to believe this fact, Wenrenhe relaxed. Right now, Yin Hanjiang's soul was wounded, so staying within it for too long would cause further damage. Realizing his time was almost up but there were many things that he hadn't explained yet, an idea came to him. "Yin Hanjiang," he said quietly, "you opened the wrong page. When you wake up, open abusive love affair, and read the parts that this Venerable One has changed. After saying those words, Wenren he left Yin Hanjiang's body and returned to reality. After bringing Yin Hanjiang back to his room and gently laying him down on his bed, he left behind his 3 books and left. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Bailey Qingmiao had lost count of how many times she'd been scared awake. During the day, she had been so terrified by Yin Hanjiang that her fever had worsened and she had been having nightmares all this time. Right now, she finally felt a bit better and blearily got up, wanting to get a drink of water, but she saw a shadowed figure standing at the head of her bed. Se Senior Wenren. The sweat that had broken out across Bailey Qingmiao's body eased her fever a lot. This Venerable One came in order to tell you something. You don't need to understand, just hear it, Wenren he said. I'm listening, said Bailey Qingmiao. Senior Wenren, are you actually alive? This Venerable One is alive, Wenren he said. What this Venerable One needs you to hear is, this Wenren he loves Yin Hanjiang. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 64, The Moon Behind the Clouds. Yin Hanjiang woke up in Wenren he's bedroom. He still felt lingering pain in his body from his spiritual energy running wild, but he was mostly healed. His emotions were strangely calm. It was as if he had a long dream in which his Venerable One had returned. His joy and pain were warring with each other. He had a chi deviation and nearly died, but at least upon waking up, he could remember 2 things, his Venerable One was alive and that very few things on this earth could overcome him. Yin Hanjiang was at peace just knowing that Wenren he was alive. As for everything else, he didn't want to remember right now. There were 3 books placed by the bed, the first being Abusive Love Affair. Yin Hanjiang didn't touch any of them. He reached for each of the heart demons before him, and only after finding each of them was formless illusions did his heart settle. He didn't feel like he could face these heart demons right now. When he thought that his real Venerable One could be hiding among them, he felt uncomfortable all over. In the years he had been following Wenren he, enduring had long become an ingrained habit. He had cut loose excessively over the past few days and didn't know how much did his Venerable One had seen. Thinking about it, Yin Hanjiang tasted blood at the back of his throat. No, there were times in the dream when his Venerable One could not be touched. He couldn't tell the real one from the heart demons by touching them. Panicked, Yin Hanjiang looked at the illusions, who all looked back with focused and tender gazes. Under all their gazes, Yin Hanjiang felt like he had nowhere to hide, wishing he could vanish on the spot. He grabbed his arms, clawing lines of blood across his skin, managing to calm himself that way. Then, he thought back to the events of last night. Actually, his thoughts were muddled and he only remembered that he had lost control. Though his Venerable One had said a lot to him, he didn't remember any of it. Aside from one sentence, you read the wrong page. You have to look at the revision. As it seemed, his Venerable One had repeated this line by his ear many times. After he calmed down from last night, he had gradually grown to believe that Wenren he was alive. At the beginning, his emotions were too strong, which aggravated his heart demons. Now that he had calmed down, he could face everything rationally. His grief had faded away to be replaced by joy. Yin Hanjiang did his best to force a calm and reserved expression and picked up Abusive Love Affair. A note fell out from within it that said, I'm at Hall Master Zhongli's place, not among your heart demons. It was signed, from Wenren he. Yin Hanjiang instantly relaxed, his posture becoming more casual. He leaned back on the bed with the book in his lap and thinking about how his Venerable One was alive and had already returned, joy flooded his heart and he couldn't help but smiled. Does this Venerable One's return make you that happy? Asked a heart demon, leaning against the bed. Yin Hanjiang didn't look at it. He opened the book, beginning to read from the first page. The story had already been revised to be unrecognizable, and the original plot could only be gleaned from the old comments, but Yin Hanjiang still managed to find out from years-old comments and the unrevised portion what the him in the book had done after his Venerable One's death. He had really outdone his current self. When he thought that his Venerable One had read this book over 40 years ago, Yin Hanjiang felt like lighting himself on fire. His chi roiled inside his body, and after only reading a bit, he couldn't go on anymore. He shut the book and recited the clear mind mantra. Fortunately, Wenren he wasn't here and Yin Hanjiang was able to maintain his composure. If it was like last night, he would probably lose his mind again. He was just reading a book, so if he couldn't continue, he could just pause for a moment and take it slowly. After a while of controlling his breathing, he was about to read on when he heard a knock at his door. Hall Master Shi's voice came from beyond it. Sect Leader Yin, your subordinate has a report to make, about Wenren he. Yin Hanjiang was going to ignore him, until he heard his Venerable One's name. He ended up hiding the books and letting him in. Shi Kengzin walked to the desk, facing the frosty Sect Leader Yin. Sect Leader, this subordinate discovered last night that Sect Master Wenren wasn't dead. Cough cough cough. MHM, Yin Hanjiang said. Shi Kengzin saw that Yin Hanjiang had no reaction but thought of how difficult it had been for him to work up the courage to come here. It was time to make a stand. Zhongli Qian had already thrown in his lot with Wenren he, and if Shi Kengzin continued to follow the devil Venerable, he would have no future. He could only choose Yin Hanjiang. Remembering Zhongli Qian, Qiu Kongxiu, Xu Yanyan, and Su Huai, who all had their eyes on his position, Shi Kengzin thought that he had been afraid for his whole life and ought to work up his courage for something. He said boldly, the sect leader may be unaware that Wenren he and Hall Master Zhongli have acted against you last night, cough cough. What did you say? A vicious light entered Yin Hanjiang's eyes. If Shi Kengzin dared to slander his Venerable One before him, his life was over. Oblivious to Yin Hanjiang's murderous intent, Shi Kengzin continued, last night, when the Lord ordered me to bring Yao Jiaping to Hall Master Zhongli's room, I saw him doing something to sect leader while you were unconscious. Does the sect leader remember this? No, Yin Hanjiang said. Watching Shi Kengzin's sickly face, he reached for his neck and placed his fingers against his arteries. What did you see? Cough cough cough. At the time, Wenren he's hair blocked my sight, but I could see that he must have been stealing your spiritual essence. He roughly described what he had seen through Wenren he's hair. Gesturing to his lips, he said, he was stealing your spiritual essence through your mouth. Sect leader, you must check the golden core at your danshan. He may have done something underhanded, cough cough cough. Cough cough cough. It wasn't Shi Kengzin coughing this time but Yin Hanjiang. After hearing Shi Kengzin's words, his face went bright red and he started coughing furiously. He withdrew his hand from Shi Kengzin's neck in order to cover his mouth. Shi Kengzin. Had he given his sickness chi to sect leader Yin? No, it couldn't be. His sickness chi had been stolen by Miss Bailey, so that he had lost most of his power and was barely even sick now that he had to resort to pretending to cough. This Lord understands, Yin Hanjiang said after recovering. You can go now. Shi Kengzin wanted to say more but Yin Hanjiang had turned away and was no longer looking at him. He could only leave dejectedly, but when he was at the door, he heard Yin Hanjiang say, do you have any wood or other material that can be made into a mask? I do. Shi Kengzin took out a top-grade piece of underworld iron from his storage item, something he was saving for crafting a bonded weapon when he reached Mahayana. It doesn't need to be so, whatever, you can go. Yin Hanjiang took the piece of iron and shooed Shi Kengzin away. Shaping it with his hands at the burning sky drum's fire, he very quickly turned it into a ghost mask. He put it on and with his face covered, he felt his heart gradually calm down. This time, with sufficient mental preparation, he opened the book and picked out the scenes involving Wenren he to read. Bailey King Miao's time with He Wenzhao at their sect and her 30 years of wandering had nothing to do with him, so he schemed over all of them. In less than 2 hours, Yin Hanjiang had reached the last page of the revision. He saw Wenren standing by Bailey King Miao's bed as he said to her, "What this Venerable One needs you to hear is, Wenren loves Yin Hanjiang." He had heard these words last night, but with his thoughts in disarray, he didn't know whether he should believe it or not. More importantly, Yin Hanjiang had been almost certain that Wenren liked Bailey Qing Miao all this while, and in his confusion, he had suffered chi deviation. Now he had read the original story and comments and knew this was from before the revision, and had never happened earlier. He had also received Shi Kengzin's report, and with the comforting presence of the mask on his face, as he read how Wenren had spoken these words to Bailey Qing Miao, his emotions were now different. He held the mask, afraid of it falling, and read on with his heart pounding wildly. Bailey Qing Miao asked with a trembling voice, "If Senior Wenren has romantic intentions toward sect leader Yin, why not say it to him directly?" With a bitter smile, Wenren replied, "He probably won't believe me." Thinking that Wenren wanted to ask her about romantic matters, Bailey Qing Miao spoke considerately after some thought. "It may be hard to convey your true intentions through words. Often, actions will reassure someone more. Like me, never mind, I'm a bad example. None of my Shixing's actions could reassure me. Your example could serve as a warning though," Wenren said. Bailey Qing Miao instantly felt heartbroken. However, she was someone who liked helping people, so recounted her experiences with her Shixing, getting closer and closer to tears as she went on. "This Venerable One knows." Wenren nodded. "I'll keep your experiences in mind. That's why I wanted to say it to you clearly, because I want him to understand. Whether it's the reserved Yin Hanjiang, or the reckless and carefree Yin Hanjiang, this Venerable One will love them both. Yin Hanjiang is Yin Hanjiang. He need not hide himself." Reading these words, Yin Hanjiang felt like he was burning up inside. His body had always been cold, which even the snow flame had not been able to resolve. He knew it was the fault of his deep obsession and the heart demons tormenting him. Yet reading this passage, his body felt hot, like his blood was boiling underneath his skin. He flipped onto the comments. "Weird, in the original story, I was always scared of Yin Hanjiang, but why do I think he's kind of cute now? Using the protagonist's dress to wipe his sword and hands, does he think the little flower is a rag? Better a rag than an everlasting lamp. I also think he's become a bit cute. Man, what have I experienced over these years? I've changed from an innocent little girl into a crazy woman. When I see a psychotic freak, I'm not just not scared, I want to say, eek, be more psycho." Hello? Are you all still discussing the previous chapter? Go read the new one immediately. This is major. In this Mary Sue romance story, the second male lead confessed feelings to the fourth male lead to the female lead's face. What kind of crazy words are you saying? I'm reading immediately. Just read the newest chapter. I went back to look at the works tags and the author hasn't just revised, she changed the romance category from traditional to uncertain. What does uncertain mean? It means anything is possible. Hold on, how come you all are unshaken by Wenren's declaration of love? Where's the screaming? Where's the rejection? Where's the shock that this story has become a denmei? You haven't seen the next thread over, huh? The one discussing the hidden romantic threads in abusive love affair, original and revised texts. They've already analyzed everything thoroughly. Back from reading it and I feel enlightened. So Yin Hanjiang liked Wenren ever since the original story, and that's why he went so crazy. I used to be scared of him, but now all of a sudden, I want to hug the poor thing. It's no longer considered the original and revised editions, it's a different story altogether. Go check out the next thread, there's even fanfiction of the two. If you're too slow, it will be deleted. Back with the nosebleed. Yin Hanjiang being vicious to other people and obedient in front of his master is so adorable. I'm here for more. I can't say what I want from the devil Venerable and his vicious little wolf. if I say any more I'll get reported. Yin Hanjiang. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 65, A Blow to the Head. Inside Wenrenhe's room, Yin Hanjiang's emotions were hidden behind his mask. His finger ran under the words, "This Venerable One is alive," many times, and gradually, a wild joy rose within him. His memories were still chaotic as he still found it hard to distinguish reality from fantasy, but based on what he had seen last night, Yin Hanjiang determined that Wenrenhe was indeed alive. Shi Kongzin said he had seen him, and even this book, which he took as truthful, told him that his Venerable One still walked on the realm of the living. This was more important than anything else, 1,000 times more important than whether or not his Venerable One returned his feelings. He wanted to see his Venerable One immediately. Even though such fierce emotions made the blood boil in his veins and strengthened his heart demons, he didn't care. Yin Hanjiang picked up the note. Right, his Venerable One said that he was at Zhongli Jian's place. Clutching it in his hand, he flew to the meeting room in the main hall, finding Zhongli Jian working on his own. Surrounding him were 4 or 5 Wenrenhe, each holding the divine bloodstone. Seeing such a scene, Yin Hanjiang stopped in his tracks. Why were things like this? He knew his Venerable One was alive, but the heart demons would hardly vanish so easily. He was now unable to tell which was the real Wenrenhe. Sensing Yin Hanjiang's arrival, Zhongli Jian calmly left the meeting room, giving the two some privacy. His departure made Yin Hanjiang more anxious, though. Without anyone around to help, he couldn't distinguish the illusions. At this point, one Wenrenhe spoke up. This Venerable One will become solid whenever I'm holding the divine bloodstone. Yin Hanjiang rushed forward, gently clasping that man's hand, and found that it could be touched. Venerable One. He got to one knee, his voice choked. You're still alive. For a moment, Yin Hanjiang was unable to speak. Blood welled up in the back of his throat, but he didn't want his Venerable One to notice, so he swallowed it back down. He had neglected propriety last night. He absolutely could not let his Venerable One see him in such a state today. Wenrenhe pulled him to his feet, saying solemnly, Yin Hanjiang, I don't like to see you kneel. He slowly took off Yin Hanjiang's mask. With a soft smile, he said, Did you read my words? Yes. Yin Hanjiang only got out one word before blood poured from his mouth. He pressed a hand over it, but it dripped between his fingers. Yin Hanjiang. Wenrenhe hadn't expected their next meeting to go like this. He assumed they could at least have contact normally, but Yin Hanjiang was too good at repressing his feelings, and he nearly hadn't noticed his pain. He put a hand to Yin Hanjiang's chest and poured chaos energy into his body, finding that his spiritual qi was a mess. He had treated him last night, but their meeting today had hurt Yin Hanjiang further. Venerable One, this subordinate is fine, Yin Hanjiang said. This subordinate is just happy. Seeing how he was pushing himself, Wenrenhe quickly placed the mask back on his face. With that barrier, Yin Hanjiang relaxed a bit. He berated himself inside. It should be a joyful reunion, yet he. Don't force yourself. Wenrenhe placed a hand over Yin Hanjiang's eyes, so he no longer needed to look at him. In the darkness, Yin Hanjiang heard Wenrenhe speak. I was hasty yesterday and damaged your foundation. If your mind is disrupted, it will aggravate your heart demons. In this realm, you don't have immortal essence to sustain yourself, so if your heart demons are not resolved, your recovery will be difficult. This subordinate is useless, Yin Hanjiang said, clenching his fists. Who says you're useless? Wenrenhe said. During this Venerable One's absence, you've done very well. You subjugated the 2 protectors and 4 hall masters, gained their confidence, and kept Qianyuan sect from falling into ruins. You also reformed the message carriers, uncovering those with ill intentions toward Qianyuan sect. No one could have done things better than you did. With his eyes covered, Yin Hanjiang didn't need to distinguish the real Wenren from a crowd of illusions, and with the mask covering his face, his expressions were hidden from Wenren. These two shields helped him settle his emotions. He spoke the question he was most concerned about. Venerable One, why do you need the divine bloodstone to solidify your body? Wenren roughly relayed his time in the sea of blood. Yin Hanjiang immediately understood. It was equivalent to those righteous cultivators having destroyed Wenren's flesh body so that without it, Wenren could only cultivate his soul. Even though absorbing the chaos energy had increased his powers immensely, he was still inconvenienced. Learning of Wenren's experiences over the past year and a half, Yin Hanjiang's hate for He Wenzhou deepened. Underneath the mask, his expression grew twisted. The power of the divine blood must be saved for helping Bailey Qingmiao merge with the divine nature, so I cannot use it as I please. For a time, you still need to manage Xianyuan sect. As for the matter of the blood demon, you can do whatever you feel like, Wenren said. From the soul communion last night, Wenren learned that Yin Hanjiang had a lot of built-up frustration from having always lived in Wenren's shadow. If he didn't stand alone before others and gain confidence, he wouldn't be able to overcome his heart demons. He could only let Yin Hanjiang vent his feelings, for which He Wenzhou and the blood demon were the best targets. Hearing that Wenren was relying on him for protection, Yin Hanjiang straightened up. Right, he could not let the members of Xianyuan sect discover his Venerable One's weakness. He must protect his Venerable One. Seeing Yin Hanjiang regain his spirit, Wenren said, last night was an urgent situation, so I had to use the soul communion technique to temporarily calm your soul. This technique can only be used once in 15 days and must be repeated several more times for you to fully recover. Are you willing for me to enter your soul again? It is this subordinate's privilege to have the Venerable One expend his power to save him, so how could I refuse? Yin Hanjiang replied. Wenren sighed lightly. Yin Hanjiang, he said helplessly, I don't want you to call yourself a subordinate, or me, the Venerable One. Yin Hanjiang froze. Was he supposed to call Wenren's name directly? How could he? Wenren didn't want to pressure Yin Hanjiang. It's fine for now, he said. If after your heart demons are cured, you still continue to refer to me this way, I won't be happy. Wenren knew that Yin Hanjiang was tormented by not being able to tell him apart from the illusions, and also didn't want him to see his more vicious side. I need to cultivate to stabilize my soul, so I'll be at the spiritual spring for the next few days. You can act on your own. When the time comes for the next soul communion, or when you want to see me, come to the spiritual spring. Of course, Yin Hanjiang wanted to see Wenren at every possible moment, but he also knew that his condition was not stable. If he pushed himself, he would cause his Venerable One more trouble. He nodded, then he felt a warmth in one of his palms as it came into contact with something soft. After gently kissing Yin Hanjiang's palm, Wenren took the abusive love affair from his lapel and vanished. After a long while, Yin Hanjiang slowly removed his mask. He stood alone in the hall, his expression chilling, sometimes smiling and sometimes dark. He thought about a lot of things but also seemed to have thought of nothing at all. He walked up to a desk, which still held the information about the message carriers that Zhongli Qian hadn't had time to handle. Yin Hanjiang had previously ordered the message carriers to investigate the whereabouts of the scum who had slandered Xianyuan sect. Having just gotten their ranks cleaned up by Yin Hanjiang, the message carriers showed impressive work ethic and had sent reports about more than a dozen people in just one day's time. Yin Hanjiang picked up the list and left, brushing past Zhongli Qian, who was standing in the doorway. Zhongli Qian. 3 days later, Yin Hanjiang returned, overflowing with murderous intent, dragging a few righteous disciples behind him. He tossed them to Zhongli Qian. I brought these scum. Soon I'll get He Wenzhou here, too. You come up with a way to lure out those experts. I'm going to unmask the blood demon in front of everybody. Previously, sect leader gave me a month. Right now, only 3 days have passed, said Zhongli Qian. Even if you've captured these disciples, I'll need time to control them, have them infiltrate their own sects, and sabotage them from the inside. And he also needed to be Wenrenhe's relationship coach and act oblivious even though he had already seen through everything. It was truly exhausting. Yesterday, Xu Yanyan had dropped in and picked up a white hair from the floor, distastefully saying that crane-haired wanderer had such a nice ring to it, but he better not become the no-hair wanderer. After getting implanted with the heart-linking parasite along with Bailey Qingmiao, he had sold himself to Xianyuan sect and had gone too deep to pull back. He was respected in the Zhongli clan, with no one even daring to raise their voice to his face, and the scholarly guests also holding him in utmost esteem. Yet in Xianyuan sect, he had been ordered left and right by the 2 successive leaders and forced to bury his conscience in order to help clean up the righteous sect's acts, occasionally dealing with the left protector's flirting, getting a migraine looking after the right protector and her 2 disciples, as well as being Wenrenhe and Yin Hanjiang's relationship counselor. The strange thing was that he had no desire to escape and was just dealing with the headaches and accepting all these complicated tasks. Perhaps in comparison to the hypocritical cultivation clans who acted noble on the front and did lowly acts behind everyone's back, he preferred these kinds of straightforward and open attitudes. I've given the people to you, Yin Hanjiang said. If the hall masters and protectors don't listen to your orders, come find this lord. This task must be completed soon. Don't keep my venerable one waiting. Running a hand through his hair, Zhongli Qian agreed helplessly. Yin Hanjiang went looking for Shi Kengzin immediately afterwards. Barging into the Hellfire Pavilion, his vicious aura scared a flock of ghost cultivators into hiding. Has Yao Jiaping been skinned? He asked impatiently. Cough cough, yes, it's done. Shi Kengzin offered up a neatly folded skin with both hands, teaching the incantation to Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang accepted the skin with distaste. Picking up Shi Kengzin, he returned to the main hall and dumped him in Bailey Qingmiao's bedroom. Take back her sickness, Qi. This lord needs to bring her back to Shangqing sect and she'll be a hassle if she's sick. Bailey Qingmiao knew Yin Hanjiang wanted to use her as bait to lure out He Wenzhao and said in a small voice, I heard Zhongli Xiang's explanation. It wasn't actually Shikshan who was trying to kill me that day but the blood demon possessing his body. Can you possibly? Yin Hanjiang didn't have the same patience toward Bailey Qingmiao as Wenrenhe. He grabbed her neck to prevent her from speaking and said threateningly, it's indisputable that He Wenzhao is colluding with the blood demon. Even if he's being used, heaven will place the karma on him. If you don't want to cooperate, this lord can always break Shangqing sect's wards and slaughter the whole sect. It's your choice, the Shangqing sect or He Wenzhao. He tossed Bailey Qingmiao aside, then remembering how in the ending of abusive love affair, Bailey Qingmiao dared to reject Wenrenhe, he suddenly sneered. You were willing to give up everything because He Wenzhao taught you to value mortal lives? Now that those lives and He Wenzhao are placed side by side, which one will you choose, Bailey Qingmiao? He was too blunt, directly giving her this question. Bailey Qingmiao opened and closed her mouth but was unable to answer. Does this warrant hesitation? Yin Hanjiang said, looking at her intensely. If it were me, there could be no other option besides my venerable one. Bailey Qingmiao, you claim to love He Wenzhao with all your heart and is willing to betray my venerable one's kindness for him. Now it's just the Shangqing sect against He Wenzhao, but you're already unable to decide? Do you actually love He Wenzhao, or are you just in love with the concept of love? Figure it out. His words were like a blow to the head, reaching straight to Bailey Qingmiao's heart. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 66, So-Called Fate. What awakened Bailey Qingmiao wasn't the choice between He Wenzhao and innocent lives. She wasn't like Yin Hanjiang. Unlike Yin Hanjiang, she had never been the kind of person who could disregard anybody else's life. The words that awakened her were willing to give up everything. She had always used this to justify her feelings. Subconsciously, she thought that she had given up so much for He Wenzhou, she'd been so good to him, she loved him so much, so how could he treat her like this? It wasn't fair. But right now, she suddenly realized that it felt like she hadn't done much for He Wenzhou at all. Sect leader Yin, why do you think that I've given up everything for my Shikshan? She asked. Yin Hanjiang answered, you retrieved the snow flame. No, that wasn't right. His Venerable One had told him before that Bailey Qingmiao once retrieved the snow flame for He Wenzhou, but now it had been given to Yin Hanjiang. The shattered mountain meteorite had also been originally obtained for He Wenzhou, but now it likewise belonged to Yin Hanjiang. The one who had gained so many things from Bailey Qingmiao and his Venerable One was him. Yin Hanjiang fell silent as he watched Bailey Qingmiao, the situation becoming a bit awkward. Yin Hanjiang didn't care about other people's lives and deaths, but for all these years, he'd had no connections to anyone, and aside from his debt to Wenren for saving and raising him, he owed nothing to anyone else. But now that he thought about it, he owed a debt to Bailey Qingmiao through Wenren. At the very least, the snow flame had been obtained through her nearly freezing to death. Fortunately, Bailey Qingmiao didn't notice Yin Hanjiang's change in attitude. She held her head, shaking it a few times. Do you also think that I haven't done much for my Shikshan? But how come I keep feeling like I love him so much that I've given up so many things for him? When Shikshan's foundation was destroyed, I did retrieve the 7-color jade lotus heart, but in the end, I gave it to Lushija. I clearly know that his nascent soul was stolen by Protector Shu, but now that I'm at Xianyuan sect being looked after by Sister Shu, and even if we're not close, we're at least friendly with each other. After Shikshan married Lushija, I left the sect and traveled the world with Zhongli Xiang, Master Qingxiu and Suhui. At Taiyin Mountain, I didn't obtain the Lockheart herb for the sake of Shikshan, but it was actually for the sect master. Even when I finally returned to Shangqing sect, when Shikshan asked me to plot against Protector Qiu, I refused. Her eyes became wilder as she continued to talk, unable to comprehend things. Clawing her hair into a mess, she asked, we've walked separate paths ever since Shikshan got married, and have hardly interacted even to today, so why do I always feel like he betrayed me and I can't give up my feelings toward him? If he betrayed anyone, it's actually Lushija. Yin Hanjiang was familiar with this feeling. Right up to the present, he had felt an inexplicable urge to kill every time he saw Bailey Qingmiao, feeling like she had betrayed Wenren's love. Seeing her in such a mess, Yin Hanjiang slowly pulled her sleeve over, ripped off a piece and used it to wipe the non-existent dust off the army-crushing spike's scabbard. Every time he wanted to kill Bailey Qingmiao, he used this to keep himself in check. Having gotten half her sleeve ripped off, Bailey Qingmiao's thoughts were interrupted. She stared wordlessly at her tattered dress, not understanding what enjoyment Yin Hanjiang got out of using her as a rag. She coughed a few times and turned to Hall Master Shi, who was currently looking at her greedily. She said a bit awkwardly, Hall Master Shi, I don't know how to transfer sickness Qi, so I must trouble you to do it yourself. Don't worry, I no longer wish to die. Thank you for your care. Cough cough cough, I didn't do anything for you, you took it yourself. With a few guilty coughs, Hall Master Shi walked up and placed a hand against Bailey Qingmiao's back, retrieving the sickness Qi he had spent so many years cultivating. After completing the transfer, he discovered that his power had increased. Sickness Qi was supposed to be like spiritual Qi and would diminish a lot every time it was transferred. Hall Master Shi had been prepared to become weaker, but his Qi had actually grown stronger. After resting for so long, Bailey Qingmiao's injury had basically recovered, so she only needed to find materials to create a new bonded weapon. She had been feeling constantly weak and passing out because of the sickness Qi, so now that it was given back, She perked up significantly with her thoughts also becoming clearer. I'm willing to follow you to Shangqing sect and lure out my Shikshan, she said to Yin Hanjiang. Not only that, but since Qing Protector Qiu has given me the tablet holding Lucia's spirit vow, I can order her to help. But I have a condition. Don't bother, Yin Hanjiang said, instantly letting her know there was no way he would agree. Bailey Qingmiao was stubborn, however. She hadn't been willing to set a trap for Qiu Kongxiu for Shangqing sect, and now that Yin Hanjiang wanted to harm Shangqing sect, she wasn't willing either. Even if Yin Hanjiang wouldn't agree, she said it anyway. Your ultimate goal is the blood demon. I've already heard from Zonglixiong that the blood demon was the one who killed the 17 experts from the righteous sects, and after he regains his power, he'll be a threat to the whole cultivation world. Us righteous cultivators cannot possibly allow such a madman to threaten the cultivation world, let alone the mortal world. Setting aside my personal feelings, He Wenzhou is probably ignorant and being used by the blood demon. He is partially at fault, so he can't be completely absolved of all the responsibilities. Her words were logical and actually made Yin Hanjiang see her in a new light, so he held back his impatience and listened. That's why I'm willing to go to Shangqing sect and lure out He Wenzhou, as well as the blood demon. But afterwards, He Wenzhou must be given to Shangqing sect and the 4 other great sects to be judged publicly. We can't condemn him on our own. Yin Hanjiang even wanted to burn Bailey Qingmiao, so how could he let off He Wenzhou? But Bailey Qingmiao's thoughts happened to be in line with his. Yin Hanjiang wanted to clear his Venerable One's name and clearly show the righteous cultivators just how blind they were for siding with the evil and harming the most impartial man in the world. But after it was all exposed, Yin Hanjiang didn't plan to let He Wenzhou and the other cultivators who had participated in the attack go. He smiled coldly at Bailey Qingmiao, not telling her his thoughts. Sure, he can be judged publicly. Sect leader is generous, Bailey Qingmiao said as she gave him a salute. I'll gladly accompany you. Having gotten her cooperation, Yin Hanjiang planned to set out immediately. Since Bailey Qingmiao's clothes were tattered, she asked Yin Hanjiang to wait while she changed into something other than a rag for the army crushing spike. She had just put on the yellow uniform of the disciples of Shangqing sect when someone appeared before her. It was Wenren He. Senior Wen. She saluted to him. Wenren He had been caught by surprise by Bailey Qingmiao's decision as he saw it through the abusive love affair book. He was already prepared to possess her if she refused so he could personally go to Shangqing sect and bait out He Wenzhou, but it was possible he would be seen through by the blood demon, so it wasn't an ideal plan. Now that Bailey Qingmiao was cooperating, Wenren He was relieved but was also confused. This Venerable One didn't expect you to willingly help Xianyuan sect deal with He Wenzhou, he said. I thought you would never be able to free yourself from He Wenzhou for your entire life. Bailey Qingmiao blushed slightly. In front of her senior who was a bit cold but had always taken care of her, she confided her thoughts. I'm also baffled. When I was 18, I felt like I could give my life for my Shikshan. After the Great Sect War, my heart ached every time I looked at Shikshan and all I wanted to do was give my nascent soul to him. After Shikshan got married, I was in such agony and if it weren't for Zonglixiong's help, I would have snuck back to Shangqing sect to see him. If he wasn't happy with Lucia, I might have even betrayed my principles and offered myself to him, becoming a person I would despise in the end. Wenren He found her analysis logical. The books Bailey Qingmiao probably would have, if it weren't for the interference of the Xiling Pavilion Master and would have already become part of He Wenzhou's harem. Her relationship with He Wenzhou was so hopelessly muddled, and she was being influenced by the divine nature, so it was impossible for her to escape this cursed relationship. But everything was different now. In their 30 years of traveling together, Zhongli Qian had taught Bailey Qingmiao much and Qiu Kongxiu might have helped slightly, too. After thinking for a moment, Bailey Qingmiao said, I've thought carefully about what I felt when Shikshan was wedded. Probably since I had my heart set on him from the start and I also dedicated 20 years of my youth and feelings to him, I was unwilling to give it up. But now, I'm almost 70. Even mortals would understand the ways of the world at that age. I'm not as impulsive as I was in my youth and have gained some insight. With some things and some people, the more you invest and commit to them, the more you want to be repaid, and if you aren't, you become unable to let go. But if you let go early, then you'll see that those things were only obsessions. Sect leader Yin's words were not correct except for one point. After thinking carefully about my relationship with Qing, I suddenly feel like I don't really love him very much. I was just attached to sacrificing for someone, moved by the depths of my own love. Senior Wenren, please don't laugh at me, but I can't even remember why I wanted to die a year ago. Bailey Qingmiao's expression was calm. She had truly been awakened by Yin Hanjiang's words. Wenren he smiled slightly and thought about the words he had just read in Abusive Love Affair. Then he spoke with some pride, "This Venerable One has gone around asking everyone he could find to ask about your attachment to He Wenzhao, from the members of Xianyuan sect to Zhongli Qian and Zhongli Kuang. Even digging through Yao Jiaping's memories was to no avail. Who would have thought that the one who most understood love was right by this Venerable One's side? He had exhausted all efforts, even using the tracking curse and heart-linking parasites, but those never managed to wake up Bailey Qingmiao. Yet it was Yin Hanjiang who had seen through everything. Yin Hanjiang asked for nothing in return for his love. He didn't need Wenren he to respond to it, just his survival. Even when the book Wenren he had loved Bailey Qingmiao, he endured his heartbreak and protected her on his behalf. And it was because of his experiences that he could see the source of Bailey Qingmiao's problem at a glance. She was merely attached. Bailey Qingmiao, Wenren he brought out the divine bloodstone, holding it out to Bailey Qingmiao. The debt this Venerable One once owed you is now fully repaid. Whenever you're holding this, your mind won't be affected by the divine nature as long as you don't get too close to it. Keep it safe. From now on, you and I have no more connection to each other." Bailey Qingmiao received it and instantly felt her body filling with power. The stone transformed into a red silk ribbon, becoming her new bonded weapon. She immediately sat down to meditate, circulating her spiritual essence to refine her new magic item. Wenren he could clearly see that she was practicing the path of indifference. Wenren he once entered the path of cultivation due to the war that the primordial goddess had instigated, where he gained the power to avenge his family. Because of his lingering attachments, he had saved Yin Hanjiang who had grown to love him. Bailey Qingmiao, who were deep in the clutches of her love, had been enlightened by a few words from Yin Hanjiang and had truly abandoned her infatuation and entered the Dao. So-called fate had long been decided in mysterious ways. End chapter.